They don't put combat engineers in the history books much. We don't storm beaches or take hills or win medals for heroism. We build bridges while people shoot at us. That's the job. Staff Sergeant Michael Kowalski, 291st Engineer Combat Battalion, 1st Army. Before that, I was Mike from Pittsburgh. Worked construction with my uncle's company. Steel work mostly. High rises, bridges, industrial stuff. Good with my hands, good with numbers. Good at solving problems that involved tons of weight and structural integrity. The Army needed those skills. December 1942, I enlisted. Could have gotten a deferment. Construction was essential war work, but my brother Tommy had already shipped out with the Marines. My kid brother Eddie was turning 18 in a few months and talking about joining up. Felt wrong to stay home. They sent me to Fort Belvoir for engineer training, taught us everything. How to build bridges, how to clear mines, how to blow things up and how to put them back together, how to read terrain, how to work under fire. That last part was important. Combat engineers don't work in safe rear areas. We work at the front, at the edge, at the place where the fighting is happening. Because armies need bridges and roads and cleared paths, and they need them now, not later, not when it's safe. We shipped to England in August 43, trained for another year. D-Day was coming. Everyone knew it, even if they didn't say it, and engineers would be crucial. We'd have to clear obstacles on the beaches, build temporary bridges, keep the Army moving inland. June 6, 1944, Omaha Beach. We hit the sand on day +1 after the initial assault waves. The beach was still under fire, bodies everywhere, wrecked equipment, burning vehicles, and obstacles. Thousands of steel and concrete obstacles that had to be cleared so the ships could land more men and supplies. We cleared them, lost 12 men in our company that first week. Mines, shells, snipers. You'd be working on demolition charges and suddenly the guy next to you would just stop, hit by something you never saw coming. But we kept building, kept clearing, kept the Army moving. That's what engineers do. We fought across France through the summer and fall of '44, built Bailey bridges over every river and creek the Germans had blown, cleared roadblocks, repaired damaged roads so the tanks could keep rolling. It was hard work, dangerous work, but it made sense. You could see what you were building. See the tanks rolling across your bridge. See the trucks hauling supplies over the road you just cleared. See your work matter. By December, we were in Belgium. That's when the Germans launched their last big offensive. The Battle of the Bulge, they call it now. We were right in the middle of it. The 291st got cut off near Malmedy. Spent 3 days holding a bridge against German armor, buying time for other units to regroup. We weren't infantry, weren't trained for sustained combat, but we had rifles and determination and a bridge that couldn't fall. It didn't. We held. Lost 37 men doing it, but we held. After the Bulge collapsed, we pushed into Germany. January, February, March of 1945. Every town fought over, every river defended, and every bridge blown by the Germans as they retreated. That was their strategy. Blow everything, slow us down, make us build our way across Germany one bridge at a time. Fine. That's what we did. We built across the Roer, built across the Erft, built across a dozen smaller rivers whose names I can't even remember. Each one under fire, each one costing us men. By March, we reached the Rhine, the big one, the last major natural barrier before the heart of Germany. If we could get across the Rhine, the war was effectively over. Germany would be split in two, finished. The Germans knew it too. Every bridge across the Rhine had been prepared for demolition. Tons of explosives packed into the supports, ready to blow at a moment's notice. March 7th, 1945. The 9th Armored Division reached Remagen and found the Ludendorff Bridge still standing. The Germans tried to blow it, but the charges didn't fully detonate. Our guys charged across before they could fix it. First bridge across the Rhine, first toehold on the other side, and it was already damaged, weakened by the partial demolition, shaking under the weight of every tank that crossed. Engineers swarmed it immediately, trying to shore it up, keep it standing. It fell on March 17th, just collapsed into the river, killed 28 engineers who were working on it. But by then we'd built other bridges, temporary ones, pontoon bridges and treadway bridges that could handle the traffic. The Rhine was crossed. The door was open. We'd built that door. People think building a bridge is slow work, careful work. Engineers with clipboards and surveyors and concrete that has to cure for weeks. Not in combat. In combat, you build fast or you don't build at all. March 22nd, 1945. Our battalion got orders to construct a heavy pontoon bridge across the Rhine near Mainz. The river there was nearly a quarter-mile wide. Fast current, deep water. And the Germans still held positions on the far bank with artillery that could reach us. We had maybe 30 hours to get it done. 30 hours to build a bridge that could handle Sherman tanks and supply trucks and everything else the Army needed to pour across. Lieutenant Morrison gathered the company, showed us the plans. Standard M2 treadway bridge. We'd built them before, just never under this much pressure or across a river this wide. Work in shifts, he said. 4 hours on, 4 hours off. Anyone who gets hit, we pull them out and keep building. The bridge is the mission. Nothing else matters. He was right. Nothing else mattered. We started at 2,200 hours. Night construction. Safer from artillery. Harder for them to see us. Harder for them to adjust fire. But harder for us to work too. Doing everything by feel and shaded flashlights and memory. The pontoons went in first. Aluminum floats that we had to position precisely, anchor against the current, connect to each other. Each one weighed hundreds of pounds. We manhandled them into the water in the dark while the current tried to rip them away. Then the treadway sections, heavy steel planks that locked together to form the bridge deck. Each section had to be aligned perfectly, had to be secured to the pontoons, had to be strong enough to handle a 50-ton tank. We worked in teams, some guys in the water on rafts, positioning pontoons, some on the shore assembling sections, some in the middle connecting everything together. Cold. Jesus, the water was cold. March in Germany, the Rhine was maybe 40 degrees. Men working in the water could only last 30 minutes before hypothermia set in. Then we'd pull them out, warm them up, send in the next crew. The Germans knew we were out there. They started shelling around 0300 hours. 88mm artillery, searching for us in the dark. The first round hit 30 yards downriver, threw up a column of water that soaked everyone on that section. We kept working. Second round was closer, 20 yards. Fragments pinged off the steel pontoons. Third round hit the bridge. I was on the deck, helping secure a treadway section when the shell landed. Must have been a near miss. Hit the water right next to us, because I felt the concussion more than I heard it. Lifted me up and threw me down. My ears screamed. Water everywhere, smoke, somebody yelling. 2 men gone. Just gone. Blown off the bridge into the river. We never found them. Another man, Private Chen from California, he was hurt bad, shrapnel in his leg, bleeding. We carried him to shore and sent him back to the aid station, kept building. That's what you do. Someone gets hit, you keep building. The shelling continued. Random, sporadic. The Germans couldn't see us well enough to target accurately, but they knew roughly where we were. Every half hour or so, another barrage, and we'd just stop. Wait for the shells to land, see if anyone got hit, then keep building. By dawn, we were halfway across. The sun came up and suddenly the Germans could see us. The artillery got more accurate, and then the small arms fire started, machine guns from the far bank, snipers picking at anyone they could see. We rigged tarps for cover, kept working. The men in the water had it worst, completely exposed, nowhere to hide. But they stayed out there, positioned the pontoons, secured the anchors, did their jobs. We lost 16 men building that bridge. 16 out of a company of 120. Some to artillery, some to small arms fire, one to the current, swept away when his safety line broke, one to hypothermia, in the water too long, body just shut down before we could warm him up. I knew most of them, had trained with them, fought alongside them since Normandy. Good men, good engineers, Private Hooper, Corporal Simmons, Sergeant Davies, Private First Class Washington. Names I remember. Faces I still see. They died building a bridge, not in some dramatic assault, not storming a position, just working, doing their jobs while people shot at them. The bridge was finished by 0600 hours on March 24th. 32 hours start to finish, a quarter-mile of steel and pontoons stretching across the Rhine. Lieutenant Morrison walked across it first, testing it, making sure it would hold. Then he waved up the first vehicles, tanks, deuce-and-a-halfs, artillery pieces, ambulances, the whole weight of the First Army pouring across on the bridge we'd built. I stood on the bank and watched them cross, watched the bridge flex and settle under the load, watched it hold. We'd done it, built the impossible, and it worked. Should have felt proud. Should have felt accomplished. Should have felt something. I just felt tired, and I kept thinking about the men who weren't there to see it. The men at the bottom of the Rhine, the men being treated for hypothermia and shrapnel wounds, the men we'd left behind in France and Belgium and all the other rivers we'd crossed. They built this too, they just didn't live to see it finished. We maintained that bridge for 3 weeks. Constant repairs, constant reinforcement. The current was brutal, tried to tear the pontoons loose. The traffic was brutal. Tanks grinding across day and night, wearing down the treadway, and the Germans kept shelling it. Every day, trying to knock it out, trying to cut the supply line. We lost more men during maintenance. Not as many as during construction, but enough. Enough that I stopped learning new guys' names. What was the point? They'd just die before I got to know them. By mid-April, we'd built 2 more bridges across the Rhine, then another across the Weser, then the Elbe. Each one a little easier because the German resistance was collapsing. Each one still costing us casualties because there's no safe way to build a bridge in a war zone. May 8th, 1945, Germany surrendered. We were somewhere in central Germany, building a bridge across a river I never learned the name of. Someone came running up shouting that the war was over. We finished the bridge anyway. Half-finished bridges don't stop being half-finished just because the shooting stopped. They say we built over 700 bridges in the European theater. The combat engineers, 700 crossings that kept the army moving, kept the war going, kept the pressure on until Germany broke. 700 bridges, thousands of engineers, hundreds dead, thousands more wounded. I helped build maybe 24 of those bridges, lost count somewhere in Belgium. They all blur together after a while. The cold water, the heavy pontoons, the shells landing, the men dying. The Rhine Bridge near Mainz. That's the one people asked about when I got home. That's the one that mattered. The famous one. Part of the big push that broke Germany's back. 32 hours to build. 16 men dead. Hundreds of thousands of tons of equipment and supplies crossed on it. Was it worth it? The 16 men? I don't know how to answer that. The war had to be won. The Rhine had to be crossed. We were the ones who could do it. So we did. But I remember every man we lost building that bridge. Remember their faces, their voices, the way they looked before and the way they looked after. Private Hooper was from Georgia, 20 years old, talked about going back to work on his family's farm, growing peaches, maybe getting married to his girlfriend. Showed me her picture once. He caught a shell fragment in the throat at 0430 hours on March 23rd, bled out before we could get him to shore, died on the bridge deck with steel plates under his back and cold water soaking through his uniform. Did the bridge matter more than his life? More than the peach farm he'd never have? More than the kids he'd never father? I don't know. I just know we kept building after he died. Had to. The mission doesn't stop because someone dies. The Army needs its bridges, so we built them. I came home in October 1945. Honorable discharge. Combat engineer with 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart from shrapnel I barely remember getting. Went back to Pittsburgh, back to construction work. Couldn't do it. First week back, my uncle got me on a bridge project. New highway overpass. Good work, good pay, safe work. I lasted 3 hours, standing on that bridge, looking down at the water. It all came back. The Rhine, the cold, the shells, the men dying. I had a panic attack right there on the deck. Had to climb down, sit on the ground, wait for my hands to stop shaking. My uncle understood, or tried to. He'd been in the First War. He knew something about what it did to you. He found me other work, ground-level stuff, building foundations, concrete work. Nothing that involved heights or water or anything that might trigger another attack. I managed, got through it, learned to work around the memories that wanted to pull me under. But I never built another bridge. Couldn't. Every time I even thought about it, I was back on the Rhine in the dark, with shells landing and men screaming. I got married in 47. Helen, a girl I'd known in high school. She was patient with the nightmares, with the way I'd flinch at loud noises, with the way I couldn't talk about the war without my hands starting to shake. We had 3 kids. Built a good life. Normal life. The kind of life you're supposed to want. And it's good. It is. I'm not complaining. But there's a part of me that never left the Rhine, never stopped building that bridge in the dark, never stopped counting the men we lost. I drive over bridges now, highway overpasses, river crossings, viaducts, and I think about the men who built them. Think about whether anyone died during construction, whether anyone fell or got hit by equipment or made a mistake that cost them everything. Probably not. Safety regulations are better now. Construction is slower, more careful. Not like during the war, not like building under fire. People don't understand what it took, what it cost. They see the bridges in photographs, these graceful temporary structures spanning rivers, and think about engineering, about logistics, about capability. They don't think about the men in cold water positioning pontoons while artillery shells landed. Don't think about working 4-hour shifts because that's all anyone could handle. Don't think about pulling dead men out of the river and then going back to work because the bridge had to be finished. They don't think about Private Hooper dying on the deck, about Corporal Simmons blown into the Rhine, about Sergeant Davies hit by shrapnel, about all the others whose names I remember when I don't want to. 16 men died building one bridge. One bridge out of hundreds. Multiply that out. Add up the cost of keeping an army moving across a continent. The numbers get big fast. Part 7. The Weight We Carry. It's 1955 now, 10 years since the war ended, 10 years of trying to be normal. I work construction, mostly commercial buildings, some residential, good steady work. I'm a foreman now, good at my job, good with the crew. Nobody would know anything was wrong if they didn't look too close, but it's there, always there. The Rhine, the bridges, the men we lost. I can't look at a bridge without thinking about how it was built. Can't cross a river without remembering the cold water and the current trying to pull you under. Can't hear an explosion, even controlled demolition on a construction site, without flinching. My oldest boy, he's 8 now. Loves building things, plays with blocks, draws pictures of bridges and buildings, asks me to explain how things are constructed. I teach him, show him about load bearing, about stress and weight distribution, about how bridges work. But I don't tell him about building them in the dark, about working while people shoot at you, about watching the men next to you die and having to keep working because the mission doesn't stop. Maybe I'll tell him someday. When he's older, when he can understand. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll keep it locked away where it's been for 10 years, where it'll stay until I die. Helen asks sometimes. Gentle questions, careful questions, about what I did during the war, about the bridges I built, about why I can't build them anymore. I tell her what I can, the safe parts, the parts that don't involve counting bodies or pulling dead men from rivers or watching bridges collapse with engineers still on them. The rest stays inside, too heavy to share, too dark to speak out loud. People thank me for my service sometimes, see the veteran pins on my jacket and shake my hand. Thank me for what I did, for helping win the war. I nod, say thank you, act like it means something. But what did I do? I built bridges. That was my job. I was good at it. We all were. We built what the Army needed when they needed it. And men died doing it. Good men. Young men who should have lived long lives, should have gone home and married their girlfriends and worked their family farms and raised their children. They died so tanks could cross rivers, so supplies could move forward, so the war could continue. Was it worth it? Did the bridges matter more than their lives? I still don't know. I just know we built them well, built them fast, built them under fire while men died around us. Built them because that's what combat engineers do. The 291st Engineer Combat Battalion built bridges across Europe from Normandy to the Elbe. Hundreds of bridges, thousands of successful crossings, millions of tons of equipment and supplies delivered where they needed to be. We did our job, did it well, and we paid for it. In blood, in trauma, in the weight of memories that never get lighter. I built bridges during the war, built them while people shot at me, built them while men died, built them because armies need bridges and someone has to build them. That someone was us, and we're still carrying them, still bearing that weight, still standing in cold water in the dark while shells land and men scream. Still building bridges we can never cross. The war ended 10 years ago, but the Rhine is still there, cold and dark and deadly, and I'm still on it, still positioning pontoons, still securing treadway sections, still counting the dead, still building, always building, because that's what engineers do. Even when the cost is everything, even when the bridge leads nowhere we want to go. Even when all we're really building is monuments to the men who died helping us build them. We built 700 bridges, and every single one of them has names carved into its foundation. Names only we remember. Names we'll carry until we join them.